This episode of The Libby O Show is brought to you by Suite 501 and Integrated Production Solutions.
Hey, I'm Marc Scibilia, and you are watching The Libby O Show. This is my song called Good Times from my new album, Seed of Joy. It feels like the summer in the middle of a winter stay, and the winds that were bitterly blowing have slowed down to sail me away. I think I'll fill my cup with the pouring rain. Good times for a change. Goodbye to yesterday. Well, I ain't that far away, but I made it here, and I'm gonna stay. Good time to smile. Blue skies for a couple miles. Bad news going out of style. You can laugh it off for a little while. It feels like a feeling, like something has changed. How long will it last for? Even a glimpse of this feeling, I'm feeling more than I could ask for. I'm almost afraid to, but I do believe the sun that was blinding is shining on me. The sun that was blinding is shining on me. Good times for a change. Goodbye to yesterday. Well, I ain't that far away, but I made it here, and I'm gonna stay. Good time to smile. Blue skies for a couple miles. Bad news going out of style. You can laugh it off for a little while. It feels like a feeling, like something has changed. It feels like a feeling, like something has changed. It feels like a feeling, like something has changed.
How did she do it? Do it. Do it. Do it.
Libby. Oh, oh. Libby. Oh, oh. Libby.
3,
Oh, oh.
2,
Libby.
1.
It's the Libby O Show.
Marc Scibilia, welcome to The Libby O Show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. It looks like this is your new studio that you've been working on.
It is. I don't know how messy it is. I don't know how messy it is behind me, so I'm going to do a quick little scan. It's not too bad, not too good. It's just kind of, this is my studio.
I love it. It looks so good, and it's
Thank you.
got that nice exposed shelving there, I see, in the backdrop.
Yeah, all pretty open feeling in here. A lot of light. I made my whole last album that's coming out in a couple of weeks. I made it all in a basement, and that basement I worked in for 6 years, and there was no light. The ceilings were like 7 feet tall. I could touch them. It was pretty tough. And so when I designed the studio, I was like, I don't really care how it sounds, although it ended up sounding great. I was like, I just need to have tons of light and tons of height.
Well, it looks great. What's your favorite part about it? Was there something that, yeah.
My favorite thing, my favorite design, I mean, the guy that designed it's amazing, but my cousin, who's a really successful metal worker in Chicago and does metal staircase and things all over the world, designed this staircase here. He's actually like a second cousin maybe. He actually grew up in the same house that I grew up in. My dad bought it from his dad. I hadn't met him until a couple of years ago. He came to one of my shows, and So when I was designing the studio, I was telling him I have this stair issue, and he was like, well, let's work on it together. And so he designed this amazing railing system and the stair. So I love that. And then I just thought it's such a really big open studio, and it's, you know, it's how I like to work. And it's really just like a fun place to be. And, you know, I just love it. It's amazing.
For sure. And especially if you're going to do a lot of recording sessions and, you know, of course, being at home during this time, you got to have a nice space and a good aesthetic.
Exactly.
For sure. Well, you have a brand new album coming out called Seed of Joy. Great name, by the way. In the next few weeks. And I've listened to a couple songs from it. And I got to say, there's some on there that just remind me of things that I've been through in my life over the past couple years. But then I also loved reading your story and just the different things that you've experienced and how that's influenced the combination, as you say, of optimism and nostalgic situations and feelings. So I want to hear what you're most excited about in terms of streaming this album live from City Winery during the week of the release, and what you look forward to being able to have an audience virtually and in person with safety measures, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played these songs. I played for the first time in probably about a year, a couple of weeks ago for just a private live stream thing that I did. And I hadn't really played, you know, I mean, it's been about a year since I played, just with everything going on. And it was pretty wild to, you know, kind of sing some old songs, sing some new songs, all kind of now in this new place where, you know, my dad passed in January and I made this album for him. And so it was pretty wild to actually play the songs in front of people and kind of put this emotion and this magic of this thing that I do in the danger of a live setting. And it was a really special feeling, more emotional than I would really prefer. But, you know, I'm just kind of going along with it. So, you know, honestly, I try not to overthink it too much because it is really an emotional album. It's connected to me. It's connected to my story. It's connected to my dad, you know, who I lost, and my daughter who's growing up. And so, you know, I'm just I'll get there and see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what we're all doing. And I think that people are going to really identify with that perspective there of just, you know, taking life as it comes, which is easier said than done, of course.
Yeah.
What was so I want to talk about How Many Times first, since it
Sure.
you know, is directly about your father there, pays tribute to him. Can you share more about how he found seeds of joy in his life and how that's inspired you in your journey?
Well, I guess I could just think about, you know, some of the things that, you know, he told me when I was, you know, he used to always say, you know, this was my first birthday that I had without him. And I remember every year he would call me on my birthday and he would always say, you know, 30 or 25 years ago or 30 years, whatever it was, he goes, it was the best day of my life. You know, he was like, I was riding on my bike in Canada because he loved to ride on his bike. And he, I guess, I don't exactly remember how the story happened, even though he told me literally probably 30 times. But I guess that's why older people repeat themselves, but because those damn kids never remember anything. But
right.
Anyways, I know he was riding on his bike, and he met my mom at the hospital, and yeah, he said it was like one of the greatest days of his life, and so I know that was a big thing for him. And yeah, I wrote that song. He had gotten really sick right when his treatment started, and we thought he wasn't going to make it, and so my brother and I both flew up. My brother was there maybe, and he was like, you should come up. And so we both flew up, and, you know, I got to the hospital and he was really bad. And anyways, it ended up being somewhat of a medication thing. And we were able to kind of rehabilitate him with the doctor's help. And we ended up having like these amazing 8 months. But I left that trip thinking, you know, because I like wrote him a letter that I was going to read to him. And it kind of ended up becoming this thing where, because the disease he had was so deadly, you kind of never knew if the last time you said goodbye was going to be the last time you said goodbye. And, you know, it's, you know, people think it's kind of like the movies, but people just die randomly, you know, I think, and we're learning that this year. I learned that last year. And so you got to kind of be prepared for that and embrace everything, you know, that a moment has for you. And fortunately, you know, that didn't end up being the case. It ended up being that, you know, it actually was pretty movie like, how it actually happened for us. And, but yeah, I kept asking myself, like, how many times, am I going to have to say goodbye? Because it's so difficult every time,
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Actually, I thought about there's a close family friend of mine that passed away from cancer about 2 years ago. She was
Yeah.
in her mid 40s, and it was a sudden type thing where it came about, and I saw her once, and then by the time Thanksgiving rolled around, she had passed, and it felt so sudden. But it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's just like, even now, I still think of her, at random times. And
Yeah,
there's
totally.
something about that that's like so comforting to me. And this song is, I guess, hits me in a certain way that where I can sense what you're.
Well, thanks. I
conveying.
really appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, so many of these song ideas and stuff, I mean, I really wasn't writing music, at the time. I didn't really have time for it. I kind of put my career on hold for the most part. But, it's like even that title, I was just kind of thinking about it. And I was talking to my neighbor who lives across the street. And I was just like, and I just said that. And I was like, damn, it's just so crazy. Like how profound some of the thoughts you have when you're in the middle of suffering and, that furnace.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really thinking about, making music at all. These are just these like thoughts that were coming to me.
I want to talk about This Dream.
Yeah.
And the collaboration with Corey Wong, who I love, by the way. He has this new album out called Elevator Music, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's so good.
It's great. Yeah.
This Dream is so catchy, and I just want to hear, is this more about the dream, or is this more about like the dream of, being an artist, or is it more about your father? Like what's...
Yeah. So I explained it perfectly the other night when we were filming the video for it. And I was trying to like communicate to the director exactly what had happened that made me think of this. So I'm in the basement of my dad's house, and he had been diagnosed at this point. He was having radiation, but he was still in pretty good spirits. But they had him on this drug called dexamethasone, which is what actually they're treating some people with COVID-19 for, frighteningly. I mean, hopefully it works, because obviously it's better than being dead. But he was on this drug. It's a steroid, and it really just amps you up, and it just gets you like, you're ready to mess some stuff up for sure. And so he was on this drug, and he was having a really bad reaction to it. We didn't even know. He was just crazy. We didn't know if it was a brain tumor or what it was.
Yeah.
And we're in the basement of his house, and he's, this is like weeks or months or whatever. He's like really mean and really trying to like organize everything. And then he'll move stuff to one side of the room and then the other. What we didn't realize is he was actually in psychosis. He didn't remember any of this once we got him off the drug.
Oh, wow.
But so we're in the basement of his house, and he's having me move stuff to one side of the room and then to the other side. And he's really mad, and he's, he can't really express what he's trying to say because the tumor was blocking his speech area of his brain. And all I'm thinking is, I just want to go home. I want to be with my daughter, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I remember, like, I had this thought that, you have these dreams of people that are like gone. And when you wake up from the dream, all you want to do is be back in that dream so you can experience them. It doesn't have to be that they've died, but it's like, it could be someone that, has moved on to a different point in life, or could be someone that's died. And when you wake up out of that dream where you're with them, you just think, I just wish I could be back with them. And I realized in that moment that this was the dream. Right now, this surreal, bizarre, horrible, beautiful experience that I was having was the dream. And when he's gone, I'll just wish I could be back in that basement, moving shit from one side of the room to the other. Whatever, and having a conversation, as good or bad as it was, I just wish I could have been there. And that's kind of how I wrote that song.
Do you feel like this album is kind of like living that dream without being asleep? That sounds really deep.
Yeah, I think it's like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think, I was, I was just trying to gather all the pieces from what had happened from the previous year, and then, try and make something beautiful from it.
And I want to hear more what it was like creating this album during a time where we're all forced to slow down and to really take our time. And, for me, I've had more time to think about or process certain emotions and things that I didn't process last year or the year before because, it was normal life. But I want to hear from a creative standpoint, did that affect your process at all?
I mean, it was nice to be able to focus, I think, especially in the beginning of this, my wife has asthma, we have a little baby.
Yeah.
There's a lot kind of going, she has a very elderly grandmother who, we try and spend time with, we try and help as we can. And so we were like pretty locked down. Like I haven't seen a lot of my friends, indoors in a long, long time at this point. So it was nice because I was just working on music, every day I'd go down to the basement, work. And there was really no distraction. So for me, like I said before the interview, it's like, this is kind of normal life. And there's all sorts of memes about producers and stuff. It's like in 2019, it's a picture of them at a computer. In 2020, it's like the exact same picture of them. I'm a little bit like that. I never like leaving my house anyways. When I tour, it's great. I'll go, I'll travel, I'll be all over. When I'm home, I'm kind of like, I like to just kind of do my thing.
And that's nice. I mean, to still be kind of familiar, because I think to some it's been a shock who aren't freelancing or who aren't in front of their computer producing or whatnot.
Yeah. And if you have a little kid in your house, I mean, most of my friends, it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like,
yeah,
it's just wild, it's like life and craziness all the time. I think it probably beats just sitting in your house by yourself, but I could probably take that for about 4 days.
Right. And so your daughter she's not quite one yet, is she? Or is she?
She's actually almost 2. She's like a year and something. I'm so bad at I don't know how many months she is, but she's going to be 2 in January.
Oh, that's so cool. So what's that been like raising her and, being able to, I'm sure she's been around this new music here. So have you picked up?
She loves music. She loves my music. She loves the Baja Men Who Let the Dogs Out. She loves Beastie Boys, Hello Nasty. I'm getting her on some good stuff. But she loves music. It's fun to watch someone hear music for the first time and what they like and what they don't like. It's awesome.
I want to hear some of your inspirations for this album. I saw you did a James Taylor cover not too long ago on your Instagram. And I'm a huge fan of that. So talk more about the inspirations behind this album in particular, musically. And yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always so bad with remembering these things. So at the moment, I can't think of all of them. But I know that, like, for instance, how many times, like, Bleachers was a big inspiration for me. Like, I love Bleachers. I think Jack Antonoff's amazing. And so he was a big inspiration. I definitely did try and channel some acoustic things, especially on, like, the title track, like Seed of Joy. I was kind of thinking about people like, early Ray LaMontagne or, James Taylor, or I'm trying to think who else I was referencing, like the Grateful Dead a little bit, because I had Brian Fallon play guitar on that one, and that was like, he like hit me back and was like, he really wanted to go for like a Grateful Dead kind of sound and part, and I just thought he did such an amazing job.
I can't wait for people to hear it. And speaking of acoustic tracks, Good Times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So good. And I was thinking about this on the drive here. You recently celebrated the 10-year anniversary of your song "How Bad We Need Each Other," and it was used in Samsung's 2020 campaign. In regards to the pandemic and connecting with people. I almost feel like Good Times would be a good like follow-up commercial for them.
Come on, I love it.
I'm like,
let's
please,
get them on,
if they
let's get them on the
this,
phone. We got to get these people to use this.
Second
I
time
love
around.
it. Yeah, it's crazy because most of the songs I did write, or a lot of the songs I did write last year, and they are kind of specifically about that moment in my life. But Good Times is actually a pretty old song that I just never really got to releasing or recording. And yeah, it's weird how much it kind of fit in that vibe and that feeling. But yeah, I really like that one too. And I would say that was one of the last songs I recorded. And I would say as I got towards the end of making the record, I felt like I was actually like on to what I'm going to do next, which I don't really know exactly what it's going to be, but I've got a feeling that it's going to kind of sound a little bit more like that just because I really like that music. It's so simple.
Yeah, really simple and easy to relate to, of course. What are some other collaborations that you took into account for this album? I know we've got Corey Wong on This Dream, but any other collaborations that you came across that have added?
Yeah, the collaboration with Brian Fallon from Gaslight Anthem playing guitar on Seed of Joy, that was super sick. I kind of made a lot of music and I was struggling to find the right mixer for it. One guy that just crushed a song on the record, he did This Dream, is my buddy Alonzo Vargas. He's an amazing mixer. And then the guy that ended up mixing a lot of the album is a guy that I've worked with for a long time, Michael Brower, who has mixed everything from John Mayer to Coldplay to Rolling Stones. And so Michael was kind of my kind of sealed the deal on like the sound of the album. He really helped me get it from like, I really like this to it's done. That was kind of the main thing. And then my buddy Scott Mulvihill played bass on some of it. Scott's a really great artist, as well as, he's played for a lot of people. I think his credits are pretty long. He's like such a crazy musician. So working with him was cool. And then I'm trying to think, my buddy Brett Vargason played drums. He's incredible. And then this other guy, Amir Usman, played a little bit. And so it was, and then my buddy, actually, it was pretty cool. I got to work with my friend Jake Sinclair, who's a really big producer. He's done a lot of the Panic at the Disco stuff, as well as, he's just made a lot of really big records. And so we actually we were kind of like sending voice notes back and forth. So I'd play him a song on my phone, and then he would hum back like, okay, make the kick drum like this. And then he would really, he would really kind of tell me like, I think it should be like this. And then I would fight with him like on one or two. And then I would like do it my way. And then I would not like it. And then I would do it his way, and it would be awesome. So we have this really great kind of sarcastic, hilarious relationship. But he's super talented.
We'll speak more to the process of collaboration for you and what you've learned over the years as a songwriter artist that you could even recommend as advice for somebody that is either used to writing on their own or producing music on their own, and they've started to incorporate other people into the process, or they want to learn how to be better at that process of collaborating with somebody, listening to what their ideas are versus their own, and just having a balance, so to speak.
Yeah, it's funny. My buddy was teaching a class on songwriting yesterday at some Zoom thing. And he asked me what advice I would give to songwriters. I don't know. I mean, my thing that popped in my head was like, be suspicious of your good ideas and be undeterred by your bad ones. I think a lot of times we either think we're totally genius or totally horrible, and I think both of those are somewhat unproductive. But I think that the real success of doing what we do is just to continue to do it and always be getting better. I try to live outside of like a fixed mindset that you're either good or bad at something, and that you can basically in a lot of ways learn how to do a lot of things well. I might not be able to ever be in the NBA. It's not looking like that's going to be a possibility in my life. But as far as, most other skills, I've kind of built my life, for the most part, on like just kind of learning how to do a lot of things. And, there's different philosophies about strengths and accentuating those. But yeah, I try to think that like the best work that I'm going to do is ahead of me. And, with time and dedication, you can really learn how to like master a lot of things.
I love that. And something that you just said reminded me of a line in one of your songs that you put out, I think it was last year, that I wanted to ask about, the song 90s. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's a line in there, and forgive me if I get this wrong. The best is not behind me is what it is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Talk about that line, where that came from, because I just want to know if that has to do with more of what people generically think about the 90s, or if it's just a thought that you had when you were living in that era. Excuse me.
I think it's like, like the 90s for me are like this, sweet spot. I was pretty young. I don't really remember. I don't know exactly the math on that. I was probably like 6, probably started around, 4 or 5 years old, something like that, until I was 13 or 12. Maybe it was the end of the 90s. I think it's more about that idea of that moment in your, those moments in your life where you're a passenger And if you're fortunate, you're a passenger on at least a decent ride, even if you don't realize how bad it is or whatever. It's like your mind kind of connects the dots for you in a way where everything's kind of magical to some extent. Not that was totally my experience, nonetheless. But I think the idea is that you get to this point in your life and you kind of wake up and you're like, whoa, did it all just kind of pass by me? That moment where your parents are together and your grandparents are alive, maybe, and there's just a lot of really good things in your life and you almost don't even realize it. And so I think that idea is that, it's in that chorus is that the narrator, who is, I guess, me. So my friend, Ben Rector, was very adamant about me not changing this lyric, but I can't remember. I think we changed it. But the original lyric was, and that's probably the truest sentiment to the song, is how I originally wrote it, is the best ain't behind me, but it might be. So I guess the idea is that this is an optimistic sentimentality. It's like you're optimistic, but there is this voice in the back of your head that's kind of saying like, look, unless I win the lottery or something, I can probably pass the best days of my life.
Aside from that song, I do want to ask about a little bit of an older one there, and it was on your first record, if I'm not wrong, Jericho.
Oh, right.
I love the melody of that, that just airy, symphonic. Talk about that song.
So that's me and one of my best friends. I've got a list of people that I call my best friends. I've never confirmed if they think I'm their best friend, but they're my best friends for sure.
Yeah.
That's me and one of my best friends, Josh Silverberg, who's a producer, writer. And I honestly, I mean, it was so long ago at this point. I don't remember exactly how we wrote it. I think I had just gotten married I think I had maybe just gotten married. And I think, when you kind of transition at that moment, to those kinds of moments in your life, or really any kind of huge moment, if it's a kid, whatever it is, if it's death, there is like a surrender that life always is asking us to make, to enter the next phase. You have to lay down your arms. You have to surrender to what's coming next. And that song was really about that, because you can't live, there's just paradigms that change when you get married or when you have a kid. And if you don't surrender to them, you'll be fighting them and you won't get to enjoy them for what they are. You won't get to experience what they have for you. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm having to remind myself that when things get back to normal and there is a regular pace, to still be conscious and aware and present, because it's very easy to just let that all be set aside. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that so many things in life, I mean, like, this album is really, there was a death happening as I was making it. And, I do think that like my brother and I both, surrendered pretty early on to what the experience was and what it was going to be. And looking back on it, I'm really thankful that we did. And if even death itself can have, can offer you a gift in kind of looking at it straight in the face and not kind of denying it, then like I would assume everything else in life can have, that a giving quality to it.
Well, I'm excited for people to hear this album. Seed of Joy comes out November 13th on Friday. Lastly, I want to hear about your hobby of grilling. I read about that's something that you have been doing as a pastime aside from music. So talk about that. What have you been whipping up?
I love grilling. I like grilling steaks mostly. There's a great company in Germany called the Beefer. It's a machine called the Beefer, and my wife got me a little one for my birthday, and it's a 1500 degree oven. And I ended up connecting with the company, and so I'm using their XL oven, and so there's gonna be a lot of videos coming of that. There was one I did recently, but I love grilling. It's really fun. It's like, I don't even know if I'm that good at it or anything, but it's just fun to like do that and have people over. And I also like smoking meats.
Okay.
I'm into all that stuff. It's fun pastime, like while you're in the studio, for sure.
Love it. And was that something a part of your childhood with cooking with the family? Was that something, growing up in New York?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, my family's pretty artistically bent. I mean, even my cousin that designed this staircase and this railing, he's like a second or third cousin. He's like an incredible, there's so many artists in my family, whether that be metalwork, or my aunt is like a head chef at like a really amazing restaurant in Buffalo. And there are many like classical piano players. My uncle was like, he would write crossword puzzles for the New York Times. Like there's a lot of kind of this type of brain in our family. And so my grandma was an unbelievable Lebanese cook. She came from Lebanon when she was a kid. So food is definitely a very big part of our upbringing, and like really good, authentic dishes.
That's awesome. You should write a book, like a coffee table book, that talks about these different stories of your relatives and these different creative
I love that.
industries.
That's a great idea.
I think that would be really cool.
That's a really amazing idea.
For sure. Lastly, I want to talk about, because I almost forgot, the music video of Wild World is about to come out.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Talk about that song and what you wanted to relay in that video, because from what I've seen, it's a very like bird's eye.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's actually been pretty difficult to do videos exactly how you would think you'd want to do them right now, just because, tough to get indoor. There's just a lot of things, especially when you're an independent artist and you don't have, you can't flex as big of a budget as you want. And so with that video, or with that song in general, I mean, I wrote that song about just bringing a kid into the world and how crazy it seemed at the time, which now looking back didn't seem that crazy. But that video is really just kind of expansive, like beautiful shots. And I'm trying to think of what we kind of wanted it to look like. High contrast, like Calvin Klein, it's kind of a lame reference, but something that almost looked like a bunch of really cool photographs. And my buddy Sean Hagwell and I worked on it together, and he's amazing. So yeah.
Well, it's a good song. It's on the album as well, and people can follow you on Instagram, and then your website, of course.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Hey, absolutely. And yeah, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
I can't wait to see it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Libby.
And see you.
See ya. Bye.
It's the Libby Show. The Libby Show. It's the Libby Show. It's the Libby Show.